Hello and welcome to today's live stream. Very much looking forward to this one. This is another installment of insourcing versus outsourcing. Just bear with me while I get it started on Instagram and we will kick off the live stream. I have a few topics for you today. I do hope that today we'll be able to go on a bit of a journey, and what we'll be able to do is explore some things that might be a little uncomfortable. Last time I've done a few ones that I've thought might be a little uncomfortable for people to participate in, to hear, but every single time it's gone really well. So I'd like to invite people to come along for the journey today. Have a few topics. It is insourcing versus outsourcing in general. The last one that I did, which I would encourage you to look at, is titled, I think it's titled Insourcing versus Outsourcing. I'm just going to have a look for you because rather than go through it all, it's just called In versus Outsource. So if you want to check that one out, that's the precursor for today. And do let me know in the comments that everything's going well before we kick off the stream, whether it be audio, video, or both. It'd be much appreciated. So I am going to give you guys a rundown on what we'll talk about topic-wise. The first is paradoxes. Insourcing and outsourcing can be a little bit convoluted when we're wondering, well, no, but I'm doing the right thing. This is going in the right direction. This is insourcing. This is for a better future. This is for us. This is in the private, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to just pose a question to people, which is, how do you figure out when something is insourcing versus outsourcing? And how are you sure that if you're along the lines of, hey, look, this is insourcing, I'm definitely not outsourcing with this. How do you know? What's your frame of reference? How can you back that up? Not to anybody else but yourself, of course, but how do you back that up? And then the second part of that is, where are there potential paradoxes? Now, I'm not suggesting people get too caught up in their mind. I'm not saying overthink everything. I definitely am encouraging people to feel this, to get into their body, to really feel. But it's such a subtle line. Like, it's so subtle between feeling like you're doing the right thing. Like, you'll convince yourself straight away. We all do. Hence the phrase, some people disagree with it, but I wholeheartedly believe this is true, that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Because what seems good, what feels like it's good to the individual is not necessarily coming from the soul. It's coming from the essence of us as a being. It's coming from, I'll look a certain way, I'll feel a certain way. It's usually got to do with, like, in modern terms, we call it virtue signaling, but it's got to do with, like, I am virtuous, or this is a virtuous act. This is a right act. So even the judgment of that, rather than it just feeling right, like, it's like, this feels like the right thing, not this feels right, but not to anyone else, not to anything else, not to a construct of any kind, just to that place that most people actually never get to, which is why I believe that that phrase really holds true. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. So today we're going to look at the environment and nature paradox. It's all going well, is it? Hopefully no one's told me that it's going well or not. Audio and visual. Source comes from within. Oh, Alpha Vedic, howdy. Awesome, good to see you. And yeah, I'm guessing everything's going well. Otherwise people would be telling me. So we've got the environment and nature paradox. We're then going to talk about the stillborn paradox, and that could get a little fun, I'm going to say. Just keep an open mind, bear with me. We're going to look at lessons rather than judgments, and then we're going to look at anti-child trafficking paradox as well. So everything, thanks, Anna. All right, cool. So let's get started, and we'll start with the nature and environment paradox. So when I was running for Mayor of Byron 2 years ago, I came out with a quote. Oh, sorry, that sounds, I came out with a quote. What I mean is, I was saying during an interview that I've noticed that a lot of people that are very, very pro-environment seem to be very, very anti-nature. As in, me being born here, I can't look after myself. Like, we're not born into a world that looks after us. Like we need intervention. We need to outsource. We need medical intervention. We need bureaucracy. We need people to tell us what's safe and what's not safe. We need red tape between us and the dangers of the world. We need to barricade ourselves away from thy enemies, which I can point to out there. I can name them. I can point them out. I can name them. I can see them. I can taste them, and I can feel them. The enemies at the gate. And what I was saying is that, like, it's so funny that the ones that are probably the most environmentalist, so to speak, are the most anti-nature. They are for technological intervention from human beings. Human beings in their mind are a parasite to this earth. We're destroying everything. We need carbon reduction. We need governments to step in. We need a summit to do with the environment, and we need movie stars talking about this, like Leonardo DiCaprio. We need people to stop doing everything. Like we need outsourcing. We can't possibly be healthy in this time. We need the CDC and the WHO to really step their game up and tell us exactly what to do and how to think and whatever else. And I'm like, they're so anti-nature. They do not believe, their base resonance does not know that by virtue of being here, we already are everything we need to be. We have everything we already need. We are healthy, safe, secure, loved. We have value. We have a purpose. We have a reason. But no, that all goes out the window. Nature takes a back seat to the environment, which is a construct. The environment is a construct because it's based on this humanized idea of what the quote unquote environment is. And of course, then when you bring people into that construct, it's very easy to sell them on the idea of climate change and global warming and CO2 and pollution this and whatever else. And there's a lot of money wrapped up in that because there's a lot of good intentions wrapped up in that. So that's why the road to hell, I do firmly believe, is paved with good intentions because, hey, look, people actually genuinely do care about the environment. Not many people, there are people out there, of course, but not many people actually want to see rivers polluted, full of plastic, brown and dirty when they should be pristine and clear. You can see the bottom and hopefully not plastic and dead bodies on the bottom, but just rocks and sand and not sea life, rivers I'm talking about. So fish and whatever. So hopefully like people want to do this. So I get it. But then what happens is because people are just drowning in this world of fiction, no matter what you do within that construct, within that game, it's supporting that game. And because that game is a construct, it's a egregore created by the mind of man, not of God. It's all fiction. So no matter what you do within that, it strengthens the egregore. So I'm pro-environment. I'm this, I'll support that. World Wildlife Fund, support the trees, save the everything, save the children. Save us from ourselves. We suck. Like what's the default agreement? We're children, we suck, we are incompetent, we babble, we do not know who we are or what we're saying or how to function or how to live. So we will outsource and have people save us. There is a local, I'm going to share screen here. I'm going to share this screen. I just saw this the other day and I thought I may as well use this as an example. This is a evening or whatever you want to call it, an event. It's an event. All right, get my words right. This is an event. It's held locally here in Byron. It is supported by none other than Santos Organics, everybody's favorite local organic retailer, who have systematically over time shown that they are firmly in the grasp of the Zionist agenda, firmly in the grasp of all the agendas. And why wouldn't they be? I mean, if you are one of those people that decides you want to rule everything and you see people as chattel, you see people as subjects, you see them as below you, and that's your indoctrinated belief system, your chosen belief system, or whatever it is, it makes a lot of sense that if you wanted to weaken the society, weaken a culture, weaken a community, you would go to where the primary hub of health is. And what's that? It's our food. So you would go to the markets and you would go to the distributor that started since the 70s that has 3 outlets in a very small vicinity of like our towns are very close together basically, that serves the community for organic food and essentially like a community hub, right? That's, of course you'd go there. I would. So I would, I would get myself in there, as in my minions in there. I would restructure it into a way that serves me and not the people. I would then set up a board of directors. I would set up shareholders. I would make it a not-for-profit. I would then be able to funnel / siphon / wash money / whatever you want to call it into my agendas and not to the people. Then I would systematically break that down to the point that it is such a watered down version of what it should be, what it started out to be, that I have essentially taken away one of the main strongholds of a healthy community. Not that that's succeeded in any way. It is just an offer. A lot of people are wise to it, and a lot of people are, insourcing and not outsourcing. So does it really matter? Not really. But at the same time, it's just saying it how it is. A lot of people are caught up in this. Okay, let's backtrack a little. So when I was really in the throes of recovering from my chronic fatigue syndrome, I had dropped out of society, basically. I decided everything was crap. I didn't want to be any part of it. I wanted to drop out of, quote unquote, the system. This is before I knew really what the inner world, like knowing thyself. Before I knew that, I thought everything sucked in the world. Didn't like capitalism, didn't like money, didn't like the system, didn't like the way it was going, didn't like the fact that the world was being poisoned and polluted, et cetera, et cetera. At the time, I thought the world was like the NASA world and everything's, in short supply and the world needs us to protect it, et cetera, et cetera. It does but I mean, this is the fine line. This is the subtlety. The earth needs us. The earth wants us to love the earth, to be on country, so to speak, as we say it in this country, to connect, because it's this interwoven system. Like the earth doesn't, I believe anyway, the earth doesn't exist without us. We don't exist without the earth. So it does want us to interact with her. She, our mother, wants us to interact with her as a being, as an energy. But like look after is in like, it's that's an inverted version of what I believe is real. So anyhow, I decided that I wanted to get involved in organic farming. That was going to be my way to be in the world. But what I was really doing was it was a form of escapism. It was a form of non-participation in the world. And funny thing is, I sustained about 3 or 4 fairly significant injuries whilst farming. I had all the good intentions in the world, don't forget, but I was paving the road to hell with those good intentions. Because through my learning, and look, I was right into it, and I still am, of course, I still support it. Like, I think organic farming is great. In my ebook, The Common Sense Guide to Food, which I wrote 6-7 years ago, whatever it was, I said, one of my favorite quotes was from one of the farmers I worked for, and they said, we don't farm produce, we farm soil. And that soil's the lifeblood of the earth. The soil goes to the crapper, and then so does a lot of other things. So we were in the process of farming soil, and the produce was the byproduct. Of course, we had high quality produce off of these farms and things. And look, I loved it. I loved working on the land, but I sustained a lot of injuries. And after a time, I kind of realized, like, it was in the field one day. I was just there pulling out carrots, and I was just like, you know what? There's probably 1 billion people or more on earth that can do this job that I'm doing right now. But it hit me. I'm like, I have to humble myself to realize I do have gifts that other people don't have. There are certain things that I can do that other people just can't. It's not in their skill set. Yet 1 billion of us could get in this field and do the exact same job. But what I was trying to do was, it was kind of the opposite. It was a paradox of humility. I was trying to lower myself so far to be the most humble, hands in the dirt guy, focus on farming, screw the system, screw money, screw capitalism. I used to say to the farmers, the last set of farmers that I worked for, because I was being paid, this is in Australia, this is in, I think, 2016 or 17, I was getting paid $18 an hour. The general minimum wage for anyone over 18 was more like $23 an hour. And if I had have gone and got a job anywhere in town washing dishes, I would have been on about $30 an hour. And I used to say, and that's minimum wage, by the way, because in Australia, we don't get tips and stuff. It's all just, anyway. So I used to say, I would rather come to work here for $18 an hour, then go work for like $30, $40 an hour, whatever, somewhere else. Because at the end of the day, I can sit back here in this field and the reward is immediate for what I've done. The payoff for what I've done today, I can feel it. I can see it. I can enjoy it. I can feel a sense of satisfaction. But look, at the end of the day, I was selling myself short. Not that I regret it, and I would still go and work on that particular farm. But at the end of the day, I realized after sustaining a few injuries, particularly to my hands and my shoulders, I was like, life is showing me I'm not meant to be doing this. I've got to step into who I am and what I can do. Hence, I started to, start putting on talks. And I think I've told this before. I had a lot of knowledge on health, like I have done for well over a decade, more like 2 decades. And so I decided to put on some talks, the same talks that I put on today. I honestly haven't changed the information that I speak about today, that people want me to come and do, want to pay me for. No one came to the first 5 or 6 talks that I put on. When I say no one, I don't mean I had a small room. I mean, I paid for a hall. I put out some flyers. I told people about it. I put it on social media, and 0 people, 0, showed up to my first, I can't remember the exact number. Let's say it's at least 5. 5 talks, no one showed. And that was me coming out of, I had to just realize, and by the way, sorry, I gave up after that again. I was like, if no one wants to hear it, I don't really care. So then I got into film and photography. And then I was like, if no one's going to listen to me, I actually don't care. I'll just tell other people's stories, all good. In the process of doing that, I got to be in some rooms with some fairly like high profile, quote unquote, people, like people who are in the Zionist agendas that are actually on the board of directors for companies like this local organic one. And I was seeing exactly what was going on behind the scenes. So then 2020 rolled around and I decided to make that video. And then all of a sudden I was the one, that was me getting thrust into, now people want to hear, and I have to actually stay in that role and not just, take a back seat and non-participate in life and et cetera, et cetera. So I did have all the good intentions, but I was paving a road to hell with that, is the long story short. So this here, let's just have a quick look at this. I know very well what goes on with this. And this is a highly compromised, this Santos Organics is a highly compromised organization. They're actually doing a lot more poorly these days because of how they conducted themselves over the last 3 years. The antithesis of nature, the antithesis of health, the antithesis of community. They were all about the agendas, anti-nature, pro quote unquote environment, raising funds, outsourcing, saying yes to bullying and obvious agendas and et cetera, and literally bullying people and kicking out some of the good staff unfairly and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, these are the people that are involved. Now, again, this isn't to put anybody down or do anything like that. It's just pointing out what is happening so we can see what's the difference between insourcing and outsourcing. We have Sarah Nadei, I think you pronounce it. She is a local Greens councillor, so political party. Greens being the antithesis of nature, very, very pro-environment, of course, but totally against nature. Don't know who that guy is. Damon Gammo is a filmmaker. He made That Sugar film, which was average. And it's funny because it doesn't come up in his bio, but he made the film 2040. 2040 was a film that tried to show what the world might be like, quote unquote, in 2040. And it's all along the lines of climate change, carbon, global warming. And guess what the solutions are? The solutions have to do with 5G technology. Funny that, right? Because it's like how isn't that just saying that we suck? We're anti-nature, we're pro-technology and pro-environment, but we're really anti-nature. And we're outsourcing. Like, where is the insourcing? Where is the change within? These are heavily funded by external, sources, obviously, and it's all to do with outsourcing. I don't know who Pro is, but it's one of those things where. So this is all to do also with Farmers Footprint. Now, I might actually just look them up 1 second, because I've got a feeling. Because this has to do a lot of these people love that dude, Zach Bush. People don't understand it when I talk about it. So okay. damn it. I should have said this before I pulled it up because I would have called it. All right, this is farmer's footprint. Now, this is where we start to get into a lot of subtleties because who is not for regenerative agriculture? I just said, when I was working on organic farms, we knew that we farmed soil, not produce. We made great produce as a result, but we were farming soil because we were taking care of the soil first. Very important. It's like instead of taking care of your kids first, take care of your wife first. More important. Then the kids are looked after by a default mechanism. But it's like donate straight away. I knew it would be the first, like you go to we'll just use mine as a frame of reference, not just because I can't think of. So you go to my website, for example, the first things that come up are, oh, there you go, insourcing versus outsourcing, the last live stream. And then it's just videos. You can find more videos. You can search for keywords, right? You can donate, but you have to go all the way down here, down the menu to then find it, to then click on it. All right. So then you go back to these ones. And the reason I knew this would be the case is because they're all like this. Donate. It's like straight away, donate. Farmer's footprint, learn more, give today, give to us. Now, the thing is, because I've worked in this industry there's Zach, for close to 10 years. And then I'm going to talk about Zach Bush. And I know that it's not like, all right, who here eats organic food, right? Do you eat organic food? You listening to this? I would wager a guess that a good proportion of my listeners would be at least getting some organic food, if not all organic. Now, don't you spend $15 basically for eggs? Aren't you paying like friggin' $8 for a carrot pretty much? Like, not that it's not all overpriced, but I'm just saying like anything, it's a business. So I worked on plenty of farms. None of them relied on donations. They relied on farming, which is the value and the resource, the currency, the product. And in return, people pay for the produce. No one ever donated to us ever. We actually used to donate food to others and to causes and other things. So it was us as the farmers or the ones that own the farm, we would donate produce or compost or soil or knowledge. Like, donate it, give it. We would give it out. All right. So no one ever donated. So why? Every single time I see one of these things to do with regenerative agriculture, and it's all got to do with carbon and other stuff, it's all part of the agenda. And if you don't believe me, if you're not like, I don't know about like farming's good, right? Like, why wouldn't we want to regenerate and the soil in that? And yes, I agree, that's absolutely true. But let's look at the subtleties, which is the key. And then we'll see why. You'll be like, oh, okay, well, maybe you'll see. Oh, yeah, now I start to see it. So the first thing is donating. It's a business. Farms are a business. They don't need donations. Why are they donations? Immediately, that's like, okay, first of all, aside from anything else, that's obvious outsourcing, right? What it does to the individual is it's like, I can't do anything. I'm not doing anything. But if I pay for something, if I support this because it sounds good, great intentions indeed, then I'm doing my bit. My hands are clean. I've done my bit. I've done a donation to regenerative agriculture. You know what you can do instead is grow stuff yourself, make compost yourself, support organic farmers locally, like buy organic food. Don't go giving it to organizations like this because they are organizations. And I bet my bottom dollar that if you wanted to go in and, like actually do some digging on companies like this, because they are companies, you would find that they're probably not as legit as you imagine. So it really is, it's all outsourcing. Hope you see that. Insourcing is starting to take care of your own garden. And what I mean by that is, you might live somewhere where you don't have a garden, but anyone can propagate soil or a seedling. You can do them indoors. You can start a community garden somewhere. You can compost. You can even compost indoors. You just need the right setup. You just put your scraps in, then you take it somewhere to actually put into the soil. But really what I'm talking about is tending the garden of your mind. That's the most important thing, because you change your state of being, you change your resonance, you'll start to see a much cleaner environment around you. So anyway, it's all outsourcing. So the same with when this guy, Zach Bush. Now, a lot of people are huge fans of this guy. And I've said for like 3 years, I actually have a video. I wonder where it is. I know it's on Instagram. I might, if you want to, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Anyway, it's like a 20-minute video that I clipped out of a podcast that I did. And the guy was like, yeah, Zach Bush. And I was like, because I didn't know much about him or anything about him. Weirdly, he popped up kind of like to fame around 2019, 2020. Weird that, huh? Because prior to that, no one really knew who the guy was. And so he sent me a clip. And I watched about 5 minutes of it. He wanted me to watch some 3-hour interview. I watched about 5 minutes. I was like, dude, this guy's off. He goes, really? And so I spent about 20 minutes explaining why. The first thing was he was reading. I'm like, I've done several 100 interviews. I've never read anything. I never have to read my own bio. I never have to read a script as like regenerative farming is like, we're all one being. We're all got to do this. And we're all a consciousness evolving into like, all that's gobbledygook, doesn't mean anything anyway. Second thing is, I wouldn't read it. I wouldn't need to read it. I've never read anything. It's so inauthentic. It's ridiculous. And I'm like, watch his eyes. It's like, it's very obvious. He's like, his eyes are doing this. He's reading. Why would you feel the need to read something like that? Straight away just boggles my mind. Like that straight away, I'm just like, that's off straight away. Second thing is, whenever he would mention certain words, because I look for these things, he would look to a particular place every time he said a certain word. I'm like, if you know anything about programming and patterns and pattern recognition, that's a telltale sign. Now, I'd have to look into it further to see what the word's related to, but he would look to the exact same spot every time. He's like, looking here. Everybody looks around when they're thinking, like I do too. I'm like, I'll often look up or I'll look around. I'm like, yeah, that thing I'm trying to recall. Like I'll look around. Everybody does. But the thing is, when you're looking for programming and pattern recognition, it's this. It's the exact same spot every time. You might look around, but then you'll still go to that same spot. Same word, same topic, same egregore, same spot. Every time, same spot. And I'm like, how can you not see that? Immediately something is amiss. Then there is the way that somebody speaks. Like I hope I communicate fairly well. I'm still working on coming from the essence of who I truly am. I still hide behind a lot of layers, even though I get a lot of compliments on like if I do talks and that, but I know that I'm not there yet. I'm working on it and I'll get there. But at the same time, I hope what comes through is that I have an enthusiasm or a genuine curiosity for the art of asking a question and questioning myself and looking at different avenues. What I won't do is just start talking like this. The thing about viruses are just everywhere. And there's like 10 to the 35 viruses just in the air. And there's 10 to the 35 viruses in the soil. And there's 10 to the 35 viruses in the gut. And the microbiome just, like, what is that? That's spellcraft. It's spellcraft. It's a particular tonality and a cadence of speaking that is like hypnosis. It lulls the listener, if they're not aware of what's going on, into a false state of safety and security, because there's a downward inflection. And every time I say a phrase, I'll give a downward inflection as I finish. And don't you just feel a little more calm every time I say something to you, the listener? And I just want you to know that everything's okay, that we're all here and we're one consciousness, that there are 10 to the 35 viruses all around us at all times. Okay, you notice the downward inflection? He also has this vocal fry. It's a global attack thing, which is like, yeah, there's viruses that do this and the viruses. And then all the time that we're one consciousness. And then we got to farm the soil. And it's that global at the end. It's like, you're not saying anything if you do that. There is no articulation. Doing a, yeah, and you end up in the, Have you seen that clip? Oh, geez, I wish I could look it up. It's that actress chick or whatever, and she's saying something. It's unintelligible just in that. It's like, yeah, we all just do that, right? And then it cuts to like that Ewok Sesame Street character just going, it's like Miley Cyrus or something, or just some like drugged out celebrity. It's hilarious, but that's spellcraft, and it's important to like look for this sort of stuff, to understand this so you can discern what's actually going on behind the words. And most of the words are just like gobbledygook. They don't mean anything. It's just words, have not said one thing the entire time. And then, as I pointed out in that interview, I said like, human beings don't know how to quantify 10 to the 35. Like a quantum computer could do that, I guess, easily, even if quantum computers exist, which is a point of contention. But the point being like so people throw out numbers But then nobody says, all right, well, how did you measure that number? Because I don't know of a device that measures 10 to the 35 of something that you can't even see. Like, how are you measuring that? Like, no, like, oh yeah, I just got my cup and I just held it to the wind and I went, 10 to the 35. Yeah, I read the inside of the cup and I was like, how do people, because what happens is it sounds fantastical and it sounds so smart. And when you hear somebody just talk and give downward inflection and just give these fantastical numbers, you're like, wow, he's so smart. Like, science is so cool. Like, I feel so safe. But nobody's going, how do you measure that? What device did you use and how does it calculate and quantify that particular number? Because a calculator won't do it. I don't know. Your phone's not going to do it. I don't know how you did that. Plus, viruses don't even exist, like, especially outside of like a controlled, it's just so many things, like none. So then this guy sells very expensive and you have to go onto memberships to like continually buy them every month, supplements to like heal your biome and gluten and all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, I don't know how people don't see it. Now, allegedly, I'm not going to go through and do it for you online right now. And then I should bring myself back on screen. Allegedly, the dude, because I tried, because I found this out a while ago and I was like, you know what, I'll bring it up so I can show everybody. You know who the Bushes are, right? Like George Bush, Senior, Junior, all that. Allegedly, I'll have to say allegedly because I can't prove it right now, Zach is from that lineage. He's a Bush. Zach Bush, he's a Bush. So do you really think the people who came through the Skull and Bone Society are like really into regenerative agriculture for you, for we the people, for the soil, for the health of the earth? Or do you think it could be the road to hell paved with amazingly fantastical intentions because it's all about the soil and regenerative agriculture and we're all one consciousness? And like, I've seen dead people after, as I was a physician, like just being at the bedside for people who had passed over. And what I got with this overwhelming sense that like we're all okay and we're all just, life's just so there. And I'm like, what the fuck are you even saying? You're saying nothing. And people are, by the way, I'm not getting angry. I'm just like, I like doing my own, I like my own commentary. It's fun. So, but what's happening is people can't see through that. And do you think that like, if you're running this agenda again, just put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has a big agenda, sees the people as chattel, sees them as below them. It's like, of course you'd do that. Like, put in like a clean cut guy who's going to talk about things that just make us just so bleed from the heart, but is not actually saying anything, can't prove anything they're saying. Like, you can't even look up the guy's proper medical credentials. He came into the scene in like 2019, 2020, like just happened to be around COVID. He then just happens to be speaking out about COVID, yet still talks incessantly about viruses being so prevalent that they're everywhere. It's like they don't even exist. It's literally the opposite end of the spectrum to what we know to be true. You cannot prove that. No one's asking for it. Like, what's the number one tenet of natural law? He who makes the claim bears burden of proof. There's no proof. No one can prove this stuff. It just sounds amazing. And somehow he's still allowed, somehow isn't, banned and stuff to a proper degree, like an Owen Benjamin degree. Not like I'm banned like Andrew Tate, yet I'm on every social media platform. It's like, Anyway, it's just like little things. Like, people need to learn, I believe. People need to learn. Not actually, I take that back. No one needs to do anything. I'm just saying, if you want the freedom that people speak about, if you want to be empowered, if you want to insource and not outsourcing, start listening to this, because this is the essence of it all. You've got to insource. At the very least, call him a good guy, whatever you want. People are outsourcing. There's no insourcing with that sort of stuff. There's no, like, where's the lessons of natural law? Where's the lessons of how powerful you really are? Like, some of it might sound like it, but it's so subtle. It's like it's taking from people. Now, Byron is, as a place, is known to be a target for the agenda, for the Kabbalah and all that. I literally don't give a crap about those people. They mean nothing to me. Nothing about my life has to do with agendas. I'm just living my life. I've gone outside of that game into, like, the real private, and it's all cool. All of it's fine. But these people love to come to areas like this. Like, why doesn't he go to like Newcastle and do talks there all the time? Comes to Byron all the time to do talks. I've never seen one, but I've seen what happens afterwards. And I tell you, the people who go, particularly the women, are under a very dominant spell. As in, caught up in this mystical thing. I've only ever known of 2 people that have gone to those events where he's spoken who know what they're actually looking at. And they're like, there's like a glaze that comes over the eyes of him. And then the people end up in this and they feel sick to the stomach. And it's like, and everybody else is like, oh, dude, it was so amazing. Like Zach Bush, it's so amazing. I'm like, that's exactly what, that's exactly what programming looks and feels like. There is no substance there. It is all fiction. And it's so hard for people to see this because they're like, no, but regenerative farming, it's good. Yeah, it can be, but it's so easy. Like this is masterful spellcraft, by the way, to take something that is inherently good, should be celebrated, should be supported, should be done by the many, not the few. But what you'll notice is that all of it's about support us. It's all outsourcing. Where's the education on how to do it at home? Where is the giving to the people? It's the donate to us, look to us. We're the ones. And then like it's always in there. Even if it's in the back end somewhere, it's always got something to do with like quote unquote an agenda, usually something of a technological nature, generally something to do with say 5G or something tech based. And it's like, there's your outsourcing and away goes your power. Just give it to other people. There's no insourcing and it's basically done. But it's like, it's so easy to get the bleeding hearts into that. And therefore the real currency too, by the way, not just the fictional, give us some legal tender, give us $100, give us a few grand. Like, the type of people that are involved in this stuff, and actually, I'm not going to name names. I know one guy involved actually in that particular one, the Farmer's Footprint. I know one guy, and God, he's a good guy, like seriously, like a really genuinely good guy. And he's like right in the thick of it, can't see what's in front of his own face. I know other people involved in it, and they are like through and through the most inauthentic, disgusting, mutton dressed as lamb, like full environmentalist, completely anti-nature, right embroiled in this sort of stuff. All under the banner of organic farming, regenerative agriculture, pro-environment, but totally against nature. So then the next topic I was going to talk about, and then I'm going to get to the comments because I just want to stay on a roll, is the stillborn paradox. Again, this is very relative to this area. Now, this is a bit of a touchy subject. I do understand that. So this is by no means having a go at anybody in particular, no people. It's hard enough as it is if you lose a baby. But like people are unwilling to talk about this stuff, but I'm not. I am willing to talk about this stuff because I'm willing to just look at the concepts, especially of natural law, and to look at what happens and how cause and effect happen. Like my talk at the festival was natural law, natural outcomes. So why is it prevalent in this land? This land here has, first of all, a particular energy to it. It invites a particular energy in, and that energy most of the time is not the nicest. Now, of course, it brings good people in to balance things out, but there's a lot of buggery that goes on around here. From witchcraft to black magic to like weird ceremonies, a lot of like summoning of, let's just say the stuff that you see in movies that you're like, oh, better not look in the mirror and say Candyman 5 times or play this board game and bury a pet under a house and like all that sort of stuff. That goes on here night and day, as well as some stuff that it's just best I don't talk about on a public stream. Just imagine like dark stuff and whatever your imagination comes up with, it's probably that times 10. So that's what goes on around here. So you got a lot of women caught up in all of these things, these women's circles, these ceremonies, these making themselves into like egregores of their own. And there's a lot of stillbirths that happen. Now, this is despite being in hey, we're in Byron and we're all like organic and we do this and we support organic agriculture and I go to like yoga and I do this and like I'm healthy and I'm a coach, I'm an embodiment empowerment coach and all this sort of stuff, which means nothing and is completely devoid of substance. But then you see a lot of these women having issues. Now, I'm not blaming anyone. The guys have as much to do with this as the women and et cetera, et cetera. I'm just going to look at natural law, natural outcome. So what happens is if you start selling your soul in those ways, it's going to come at the expense of something else. And the first thing that I see is people messing with the wrong stuff, getting involved in the wrong kinds of everything, and these are the prices that they'll pay. And included with that is a lot of spiritual bypassing that goes along with a lot of the activity here. But the main thing that I noticed that's like really, really weird to me, and guess what? A lot of people don't call it out. People talk about it behind the scenes, but no one really talks about it openly. And a lot of people, again, the bleeding hearts, the road to hell paved with good intentions, very easy to get people to bleed their hearts. They fall right into it. And that's this. Have a stillbirth. Now that should be the end of it. That should be like, holy crap. That should be so painful that you can't consider anything else. But no, the very next day, a GoFundMe is launched. And this happens multiple times. Victim, 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 victim. Happened in the floods. People end up with Range Rovers and all this other crap that like so much stuff goes on. And immediately there's a GoFundMe and it's like, hang on a second. You just lost a baby. How is the first thing you're thinking of money? Like, there is more to this than like there's a lot more to this that you really need to be paying attention to. Not money, not people's. Why does anybody even need to know about this, first of all? Like, hey, just had a baby, was stillborn, click, selfie, story, hashtag, stillborn. Like, seriously? Like, how does this stuff even see the light of day? This should be behind closed doors to keep it like the sanctity of what that is, protect it for fuck's sake. Like that's a cardinal sin, that one. Just leaking that out, first of all. But then second, to set up a GoFundMe, it's like, yeah, just so it can help us get over the pain. It's like, you get over the pain by getting over the pain. You go into it, you have the experience. You look at what you did leading up to it. You look at your belief systems. You look at like what you created. You look at all of that. You console one another. You console yourself. You pray. You do whatever you need to do. You don't go on a holiday to another country and get counseling or massages. I'll get a $150 massage and that'll massage the pain out of me. It's like, what are you doing? And this isn't an isolated, this happens semi-regularly, I have to say. I don't know if it's endemic to Byron Bay in this particular region, but God, it's sickening. So, but let's just have a look at what happens is the paradox of insourcing and outsourcing. So and from the party that had the unfortunate loss, the immediate thing is to outsource. There's no insourcing there. It's all outsourcing. Now, what that does, I believe, is if you put a price, we just need to raise X amount of money, that absolutely cheapens the life of the child you just lost. How can you see it any other way? It cheapens the life. You put a price on it. You can't do that with a living thing. It's sickening. Now, the second thing that happens is the bleeding hearts, the people who don't see through it, just go, oh, yeah, like here's money, 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 you poor thing, here's money. It's like, all right, what are you doing there? You're outsourcing. But what you're also doing is you're actually robbing. So here's the thing. Here's the paradox of giving. Giving often robs. So that sounds like a paradox, right? Like I'm giving. No, I'm giving. It's a good intention. No, it's a road to hell because you're robbing the true experience, the essence of what is there to be had. You rob the people of the experience by giving and buying into it and supporting this stuff that goes on. So all of it's outsourcing on every level. It's all to do with bleeding hearts. It's all to do with nothing of substance, all of fiction, all outsourcing, no insourcing. So you see the results. The results are, well, it's plain to see. It's written all over people's faces. It's in their bodies. It's in their expression. It's in the world around you that you see. And these paradoxes just go over people's heads. I don't know if anyone's really like, just how are you feeling with that? How are you sitting with those words? Do you see the same thing? Do you see it differently? You're welcome to have a different opinion. I'm also not saying I'm right. I'm just saying like, I definitely don't get caught up in these things because I believe I see it for what it is. And it's really, yeah. There's a lot of validation and gain that goes along with that too. It's got nothing to do with anything like holy, so to speak. There's no sanctity to there. So it's just like, I just thought, look, let's look at a topic that most people would just steer clear of because it's quite a gnarly topic. But I'm like, if you can see it in that, you should be able to see it in everything else. So that's the topic of, how are we going with time? 43 minutes. So that's the topic of the stillborn paradox. Now let's look at the next one, which is child trafficking. Like so many people are I'm into the anti-child trafficking. And a lot of people talk about it like, yeah, I did anti-child trafficking as if it's like virtuous somehow. It's like, how many kids did you friggin' save or whatever? Oh, that's right, 0. Why? Because It's outside, it's an egregore. It's like nothing happens in that world. It's like it's going to the bleeding heart. It's the good intentions paving the road to hell yet again. What happens with that? Nothing. Why? Because it's full of fiction. There's no substance to it whatsoever. I've been through this a lot. I won't rehash it all. But the bottom line is this: it's like no one asks the "and then what" question. So let's say any of these anti-child trafficking, operations did something. Well, what happens now? So you pull out a bunch of kids. Now what? Then what? Who's looking after them? Well, you're not. I know you're not, because you probably got kids of your own, or you got a job to get back to, or these kids are highly traumatized. You don't know how to deal with them. So what do? I'll just give them back to the state. The state will look after them. Oh yeah, okay. So that's not a front for child trafficking in the first place. That'll go really well. Well done. Well done. Like, yeah, did you like that? So it's like, where does that go? Like, nobody asks that. And it's big business. Like, the anti-child trafficking thing is very, very big business. So it also gets wrapped up in an identity. Me, it's all about me. It's not about kids. It's not about people. It's not about serving the creator. It's not about my essence. It's me. I worked in anti-child trafficking. It's like such a lofty thing. And the people that I know that talk about it, it comes out of the mouth all the time. Even when it's pretty much irrelevant to bring up, they'll just bring it up. And it's like, why are you doing that? This is an identity. An identity is the crux. This is the Achilles heel of anybody who wants to know who they are. Identities are the Achilles heel. Your driver's license, passport, your name, your all of that, social security, you're not that. Like, you start identifying with your identity, you're already losing the game. But same with like, I'm a holistic this, and I'm a that, and I was a, it's like, you're creating an identity that's first of all fake, and now you're buying into it. Like, what are you doing? That's the natural law 101, fail. So the way around that is to just not have identities around things. Like, don't identify with an identity, and don't create identities. Like, you don't need it. Here's the thing. Here's the lesson in this, based on natural law that I was talking about earlier. By virtue of being here, this is the nature environment paradox. That's an analogy. We are safe, secure, loved. We have everything we need. We're provided for. We have value, reason, meaning, and purpose. So, default mechanism, we do not need to build identities under which we live and we project onto others to somehow gain some kind of validation. We don't need it. Natural law says we have it already. So, So now instead of outsourcing, we just insource. How do we find it? Where is it? I don't know. I just need to create more identities. No, we don't. We need to get more still and softer and more gentle within until we find that. That's the essence of knowing thyself, to get to our own essence. Again, plug it, Beyond Breath, go to tombarnett.tv. That's a workshop on working in and learning to connect more with the breath, like the proper version of breath work. It's a way of many to help to get to that place that I'm talking about. So the thing is, because it's like to do with kids, like everybody wants, again, same with the environment stuff. There's good intentions, because most people want to see a clean environment. They don't want to see polluted rivers and decimated forests and stuff that are now barren. No one wants to see that. That's not a psychopath or a sociopath. No one wants to see that. Likewise, no one wants to see kids getting the rough end of the stick. No one. But the thing is, it's titillating to people. So it's now the good intentions come up, and now you're paving more of the roads to hell, because no one's really doing anything about it. People are raised in a society where they don't know how to think, don't know how to feel, don't know how to connect, don't know how to use discernment. Wouldn't know what to do with this stuff if they came across it anyway. Don't know how to engage in combat, like warfare in the positive way. I'm talking about these things. Just going to be useless. So because people don't know what to do, even if it was right in front of them, they just create these egregores around it by which, okay, now I'm virtuous, now I'm doing something. No, it's all full of fiction. There's no substance in it whatsoever. So it's like very, very titillating to talk about these things. And I do anti-child trafficking and I raise money for it, donate to this, and we'll go there and do that. And it's like, but nothing's happening. Nothing ever happens. So what's actually very, very disrespectful, in my opinion, is to talk about having done anti-child trafficking, yet never having done anything with it. Like, don't keep bringing it up. You should almost be ashamed of that. You used money, resources, time. You went on false promises and false virtue. And now you're still trying to prop up this whole virtue thing when nothing actually happened. It actually made things worse. So I would zip it. I would not talk about that sort of stuff. It's the same with there's so many different examples of this in many, many different fields where it's all about this virtuosity that's coming from an inherent place of not knowing oneself. And generally these people have a lot of other issues going on as well. When there was this dude that came to our town again, I think they did a tour. He was called the Machine Gun Preacher. I didn't look into it. One of my mates said, "Oh, you got to come. You got to see this guy." He's like, and I'm like, I had a look at the invite, and it just said it had weird things on it, like, don't ask the guy direct questions. You're not allowed to ask him anything. He's going to channel directly from God. You can't disturb him. And I'm like, this is like already. And then I'm like, I looked up the guy's story. He was like apparently a criminal, like a bikie gang member. That was just, like full on into that world. Then found God and then went to like Africa or something. And then just started picked up a machine gun. He was in a war and then just started shooting people and then taking kids out of. I'm like, that doesn't happen. That's not how it works. That's not how child trafficking works in the first place. You certainly don't pick up a machine gun and start shooting people and start bringing kids. And apparently hundreds of millions of dollars get donated to this particular organization. He's clearly fiction. It's not fraud, but yes, a fraud, but it's what do you call it when they create a figurehead of, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's just a money-making thing. But it doesn't just make money, it draws on people's good intentions, which could be put to better use if they were just to insource. And that's the take. It's not the taking of the money. $100 here, a few $1,000 there, that's all irrelevant. They're going always, people like that, even if it's unbeknownst to them, are going after the real currency. And all you have to do to prevent that is stop outsourcing and start insourcing, and everything balances out. You're not taken from anymore. You're not losing anymore. You don't have any enemies anymore. Everything balances out. Just start insourcing. It's very, very simple. It's actually the most simple thing to do. So simple, in fact, that almost nobody does it. It's too easy. It's too simple. People are too busy in the mind, too preoccupied with distractions, too fixated on the external and outsourcing that they just don't even consider it and wouldn't even know how to do it if they could consider it. But it's the simplest, most basic thing on earth that requires doing nothing and leaving nothing undone, as it says in the Tao. It's, So anyway, with all that sort of stuff, how am I going for time? There's no solutions in it. It's basically just titillating. And there's a lot of dark default agreements that go along with that. And a lot of the people that want to support things I like what you're doing with anti-child trafficking. I'm like, what are they doing? Really, what are they doing? And they'll give money to that freely and be proud of it. I support this. I support it. I support the current thing. And then it's like, oh, hey, that's cool. Yeah, by all means. By the way, here's something tangible. It's a little closer to home and it's tangible. There's no false virtue with it, and they're like, no, I'm not supporting that. No, I don't like that. I don't like how you're even talking. I don't even like how you said it. And it's like, all right. It's a very, very humorous construct in itself. All of these are constructs, by the way. So there's nothing inherently wrong with it. Even guys like Zach Bush and that, they're not my enemy. They do their thing. They have a way about what they do. It's for a specific reason. That's all part of a certain program or a certain construct over there. And that's all cool. All I do is I watch what happens between people having their energy loosed and their roads, their good intentions being sort of, I see it. It's still only my opinion. But what it allows me to do is be more resolute for me, be more still for me, be insource more and more for me. And not fixate on I don't need anybody to know that. I don't need anyone to know my opinion. The whole purpose of these live streams is to point out the paradoxes and just for you, the listener, to ask, am I outsourcing more than I'm insourcing? And if so, do I want to do something about that? And at the end of the day, that's the whole point of this stream. And that's the natural law lesson at the end of the day is, can I do more insourcing? Would that benefit me? Do I even need to? You might not want to or need to. I'm not even telling you need to. Having consulted for people as a practitioner for a number of years, having coached a number of people, having run a platform, having spoken at rallies, having had people ask for a lot of things from me, I can tell you that the number one issue that I see over and over and over again, whether it be to do with somebody's social status, their health, their monetary, their finances, their relationships, the way they see the world, feeling like they're in a crap zone and they want to get out of it, all of it's got to do with outsourcing and victim consciousness. All of it. If I could break it down to those two things. They're programmed a certain way, and the way out is simply the way in. And it's all to do with natural law. Hence, why I'm setting up to run courses on natural law and how it relates to each of these little individual like places of our lives, our health, our wealth, our relationships, our view of the world, the way we interact with the world, our value, our purpose, meaning. And so like this, I believe, is me having come to what I'm really here to do without needing anybody. And I know that too, because here's how it works from my perspective, like as the individual doing it, is that it's not about changing the world. It's not about other people. It's not about outsourcing anything at all. It's just like, I feel very calm about it. And it's just like, I don't need to put effort into it. As in like, that sounds weird in itself, but it's like, I don't need to try it. I don't need to force it. It's just like, it's a resonant thing that's just coming out. And it's more about insourcing in the inner. And it's just an expression of that. And that's how I know that's the right track. That's only the way I see it. You can see it. I'm not telling anyone else to see it the same way, but I'm just saying over a number of years of, having done a lot and seen a lot and been around a lot, that's like, it's a whole other way of being. It's a whole other world. And it opens up things that just cannot be found in those constructs that are essentially, egregores, constructs, mind viruses, entities, and et cetera, however you want to describe that. Programs, illusions, AI, all the other words people use. I'll very quickly just go through some of these. Listen to you live on the platform. Would Topher talk to you about the celestials? Yes, Topher will do that for sure. Outsourcing is validation from others. The paradox is sometimes others will validate the good. Yeah, for sure. That can happen. Yep, definitely. You're welcome, Lucienne. That's good. I'm skimming through these because it'll cut out in 4 minutes. I thought although solar panels and electric cars, which I'm not. Yeah. Most of them drive Teslas. It's hilarious actually. All right. What do we got here? Keep practicing the US. It's pretty good. Thanks. Yeah. I didn't mean to do a US accent. I was just kind of like, as I was doing my Zach Bush impression, it just kind of came out. All right. Yeah, there's too many. I can't read all of these. Sorry. Don't think I love myself. Okay, well, that's a good one. All right, I'm going to just wrap that up. I'm just going to kill the Instagram one before it actually just cuts out on me. And need to clip that bit on identities. You can clip anything you like. I might get around to clipping some stuff myself. Yana says, I drove up the road, get organic eggs for $5 a dozen. Markets and certified farmers charge $15, often also sourced from interstate. Yeah, I was just making a point of like, it's a big business. So yeah, you definitely don't pay that. Like you can get it from roadside stalls and that a lot easier and cheaper. But yeah, and of course, just do it yourself. It's a lot cheaper again. All right, got to finish the Instagram one so it doesn't die. See you later. And thank you guys for joining. Thanks for staying on as well with the topic and the nature of the topics. I noticed that no one really dropped off. So appreciate that. And yeah, it's good that we can talk about these kinds of topics and just look at the lessons. It's not judging people. Like everyone's going through their own thing. Most people that do these sorts of things, they're already living a bad enough life for themselves. They don't need judgment from others. They don't need anyone like talking bad about particular people. But it's just a good exercise to be able to look into the behaviors, where it's coming from, what's fictional, what's substance, so that we can begin insourcing more and stop doing so much outsourcing. And as a result, live a better life. And as a result of that, that's all we can do to really make change out there, quote unquote, so to speak, in the world. So hope you enjoyed. And if you want to support, just do it at tombarnett.tv. Get any of my products or drop a little donation if you like. I don't have super chats available on here. And you can send anything you like to PO Box 221, Brunswick Heads, New South Wales, postcode 2483. And I'll see you next time.